Hello everyone, so in this video I'm going to be showcasing the campaign start position and the goals that the Byzantine Empire has in Chivalry Remastered, of course the medieval era mod I'm working on, porting the classic medieval era mod Chivalry Total War from the original Rome Total War to Rome Remastered. And I have altered a lot of bits of the campaign here. So, of course, in the remaster, there is no more unit limit and there is no more province limit. So, for now, I have taken advantage of those lifted limits. And so, in regards to the Byzantine start position, you can tell that there are a few more provinces. So, the Byzantine Empire actually doesn't have too many provinces in chivalry. It's a little bit barren. So I felt that it would be necessary to add a few, such as Mistra, right, and province of Laconia, and as well as Nicopolis with the province of Acarnania. These were, of course, important centers in the High Era and Late Era campaigns I'm planning to make. These were important centers of, Byzantine political control, and of course you have the Despotate of Epirus, Byzantine successor state, that controlled Nicopolis, as well as until the very end you had Byzantines controlling Mistra and the Despotate of the Morea down here. So that's why I felt it was important to add those two provinces, and of course I am planning on adding a couple of other provinces as well, including Negroponte or Chalkis in Euboea, right? Because of course that was an important Venetian possession eventually. Perhaps Larissa, as of course that was a sort of Wallachian crusader state, you could say, down here in Thessaly, as well as the island of Lesbos, which was of course a Genoese possession in that later period. So I am not quite done with the Byzantines here, but I do want to talk a little bit about their situation. So, of course, the campaign of Chivalry starts a little bit sooner than the standard early era medieval campaigns we've seen in Total War games, like Medieval 2 begins in 1080 AD. Stainless Steel's early era starts, I believe, in 1100, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of mods do 1080. Sicilian Vespers, Chivalry 2 also does 1080 for the early era campaign. Chivalry 1 did 1072 AD. And I think that's an interesting start position. It's a little bit more sandboxy, especially for the Byzantines, as well as, you could say, the Iberian Peninsula. I will be showcasing how I have redone the Iberian Peninsula at a later date. But let's lift the fog of war here. And let's lift the fog of war here. So, of course, a big enemy of the Byzantines at the start is, of course, the Norman kingdom of Sicily. Of course, there were invasions deep into Byzantine territory by the Siculo-Normans. So you start at war with them, and they will attack you at Dyrrhachium, both with naval invasion, and of course, chivalry includes a land bridge here between Apulia and Dyrrhachium. So that is something a Byzantine player has to watch out for. It's, chivalry does a good job of showing that the Byzantines had fights on several fronts here, right, in the early era. And, historically, you could make an argument that some of these Anatolian settlements, or some of these settlements in Asia Minor, deserve to be under Byzantine control. You can see I've added several provinces here to Asia Minor. Now, Manzikert, the Battle of Manzikert, took place in 1071, of course, and almost immediately afterwards, things really fell apart for the Byzantine Empire in Asia Minor. And, even though a lot of locations remained under Byzantine nominal control, like even Antioch, for example, remained under nominal Byzantine control, but it was not really under Byzantine control. The situation was out of control. There were several rebels and pretenders to the throne: Philaretos Brachamios, Norman mercenaries here in the north in Paphlagonia. There were a lot of problems. So I think chivalry, which just makes them all rebel provinces, all the provinces here under nominal Byzantine control, I think that's probably the best compromise here that they could have made. It makes it more sandboxy, as well as, the emperor at the start is, of course, Michael Dukas, rather than, a lot of campaigns start out with Alexios Komnenos, right? He's the heir here. But Michael Dukas is the emperor at the start in Chivalry's early era campaign. And, he spent his reign trying to solve a lot of these issues. Of course, he didn't solve any of them. He didn't solve the Siculo-Norman issue. He couldn't solve the Cuman and Pecheneg incursions into Bulgaria, the theme of Paristrion. Couldn't solve that. He couldn't maintain control of many Asia Minor cities and towns. So, I mean, that's part of why he had to abdicate eventually. But, you could change history here. You could have some success as Michael Dukas, perhaps, or you could send him on a ship to the Fatimids and just have Alexios lead the army if you want. Simulate a sort of abdication there. But in any case, Asia Minor is where you have to campaign. I mean, your victory conditions, which I have devised, involve going into Asia Minor, taking back a lot of those provinces. Now, you can see the first province I added to Asia Minor here is the theme of Optimatoi, which had its capital at Nicomedia. Of course, Nicomedia was actually a center where, Alexios Komnenos, when he called for help from the Crusaders, Nicomedia was still under Byzantine control, even though, like, Nicaea was not. A lot of these locations were not, but Nicomedia was, again, secured under Byzantine control, and that's actually, where the Crusaders crossed over. They got to Nicomedia and then went down here to Dorylaeum and through Asia Minor. So that's the first province I added here. Smyrna was in original Chivalry Nicaea as well. I added Philadelphia and the theme of Thrakesion. Philadelphia actually remained, resisted the Seljuks of Rome attacks, so that's a good city to have here. Iconium is here. Atalaya, of course, in the theme of Kibir-Hayotes, is here. I added a few provinces here to the south. As you can see, you have Kalonoros, which is the province of Pamphylia. This was an important city which changed hands several times. It was first taken by the Seljuks of Rome, and then it was taken back by the Byzantines, and then it was taken by Armenia in the 12th century, and then it was taken by the Seljuks of Rome again in the 13th century. So that's why I felt this was a good province to add, the province of Pamphylia. These provinces here, Iconium, Ankara, Sinop, these were there in standard Chivalry early era. I have added Amasya and the theme of Armeniakon. Sinop was actually labeled as Armeniakon, a bit of a misnomer there. It would be better to call it Paphlagonia, which I have done, taking historical considerations into account. So Caesarea and Ankara are the Seljuk of Rum strongholds here. The Seljuks of Rum technically declared independence from the Grand Seljuk Empire to the east. The Grand Seljuks, of course, represented here, their blue logo and color. The Seljuks of Rum start out allied to the Grand Seljuks, and eventually they can break away and start warring with them eventually. I think that simulates the historical situation pretty well, because these guys, similarly to the Byzantine Asia Minor provinces, were de jure under Grand Seljuk control, but they very quickly declared their own sultanate here in Asia Minor, the Sultanate of Iconium or the Sultanate of Rum. So that's why they are a separate faction here. It's very, I like the sort of sandbox situation here. You have a scramble for provinces. The other major faction located in Asia Minor is, of course, Armenia. Now, of course, a lot of people say, well, Armenia is not here. Well, in this period, there was an Armenian kingdom based in Kilikia here. And after the Battle of Manzikert, you had several Armenian lordships declaring independence, including those of Antioch, Edessa. I've added the province of Horomkla here, as well province of Kesun. There was actually a principality, the Principality of Kesun, which will be represented. I will be talking about it eventually. And of course, the capital in original chivalry was located here, Sis. And while that was eventually the capital in the late 12th century of the Armenians, the capital in the early period of the early Rupenian Principality was Vahkad, a castle town located in the sort of Taurus or anti-Taurus mountain range here, very difficult terrain. And that's why I've added this province, the province of the Kilikian Gates, to sort of represent this early situation. This is probably one of the more difficult campaign starts here because, of course, you start out next to some really powerful factions. And actually, Anazarba here, I've changed the city here from Sis to Anazarba because Anazarba was more important in the 11th and for most of the 12th century. Anazarba has a Byzantine culture, which is different from the Armenian culture here. So when you take this province, or when Armenia takes this province, they have cultural issues, and Anazarba can even rebel to the Byzantines. So that is an interesting mechanic, and I've seen that happen in campaign testing. So yeah, you've got three factions here in Asia Minor scrambling for a lot more provinces than you have in the original chivalry. Of course, you also have one more major faction here, you could say located in far eastern Asia Minor, and that would be the Grand Seljuk Empire. So they've got an army here next to Antioch, and they control Aleppo, they control Mosul, Baghdad, Basra. I have added a couple more provinces for them as well, including Hamadan, Basra, Tabriz. I added actually in original chivalry, Tabriz was located here where Ardabil is, which doesn't make sense. So I kept this as Ardabil, and I added a province of Urmia, Tabriz over here. And I also added Manzikert. So Manzikert is your ultimate goal as the Byzantines. You've got to go and retake the castle town of Manzikert. That is your end goal. That is your campaign victory as the Byzantines. So that's pretty much all I have to say about the Byzantine start position here. So in any case, this is my preview of the Byzantine Empire campaign. There are a lot of things I have to show you about the campaign, a lot of enhancements, a lot of units, a lot of changes, province changes. I will be doing a preview of the Iberian Peninsula because I've made a lot of interesting changes there. I've made a lot of interesting changes in Scandinavia and in other locations as well, in Italy as well. So yeah, that's the Byzantine preview. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it makes you excited to play as Michael Dukas in the early era Chivalry campaign. Of course, Chivalry also has a 1099 Crusader Epoch campaign. That one will probably not be ready for the full release, which I am planning to do sometime next month, over the next few weeks. But the campaign, it is going very nicely. Development is going very nicely. I believe you'll be very happy with it. And I hope you're excited by this preview. So, in any case, I hope you enjoyed this preview, and I will see you in the next video.